Well, I have to say that it's an absolute honor to be with you here as we kick off UVU's Women in Leadership Collegiate Case Competition. My name is Dr. Kelly Hall. I'm a faculty member here in the Woodbury School of Business. I also serve as the director of various women's leadership initiatives across the university. And I am also the one who has been sending you a lot of emails lately. So all of those reminders, all of those updates, that was me. And I'm just super excited to finally be here with you tonight. Our entire team actually has been looking forward to this competition for a long time. Now, in just a few minutes, I'm going to introduce the teams that we have. I'll also introduce some of the incredible people who have helped make this event possible. But before we do that, I'd like to actually share a couple lessons with you, kind of some words of wisdom that have helped me at various points in life, and perhaps they will help you as you move through this competition too. It'll also give you a sense of how it is we actually got to be in this moment together. Now, in order to do that, we're actually going to have to travel back in time just a little bit. And some of my colleagues that are here already know this. But when it comes to women leaders, one of my greatest inspirations has been my grandmother. And growing up, she was just like a mirror that reflected the very best part of those around her. She was an absolute spark of life, and she ignited in me and many others a drive to do great things, a desire to build relationships, and a desire to support other women. Now, even though I didn't really realize it at the time, even as a child, I admired her as a businesswoman. She worked in a corporate office, she led an entire accounting team, and even when I played dress up in her clothes, I didn't pick just any clothes. I liked to try on her business suits. And when I was about 5 years old, she asked me to be a model in the American Business Women's Association fashion show, which was quite a big deal at the time. Now, for your sake, and to spare myself the embarrassment, I'm actually not going to demonstrate my runway walk for you tonight, nor am I going to show any pictures from that event and the hairstyles that were in fashion back then. But I guess I'll just say that that was probably the first time that I was on stage at a women's event. Now, when my grandmother passed away, that was obviously a really dark time, and I was in a slump. But I knew that I needed to move forward. I really needed to keep my mind busy. And so I leaned into one of the values that she helped instill in me, and that's the value and the appreciation for education and development. And that's a value I know everyone in this room shares in common. So I returned to school, got my doctorate degree, and went on to work at a university in Florida where I had great colleagues and great success. But then we added a pandemic to the mix of things. And when a global pandemic collides with personal and professional dynamics, it prompts a lot of reflection about what are the true metrics of success in life. Even beyond my family considerations at the time, there's the fact that the average person will invest 80,000 hours in their career. 80,000 hours. How do you want to spend your 80,000? What kind of impact do you want to have in that time? How do you want to leverage your skills and your talents? So with some reflection like that, I then leaned into another lesson from my grandmother. Now, she believed that you should really go new places, you should try new things, put yourself out there, and take risks. When you step into an unknown territory, an unknown situation, and you're really putting yourself on the line, sometimes you'll win, sometimes you'll lose, but you can always learn. And students, I know that every one of you took a risk to come here tonight to compete in this event. And just like you, I took a risk to come to UVU too. And so we share that risk in common. I will tell you what I found when I took that risk. I found that I was stepping into a community that is entirely focused on student development and student success. So although you are here for a competition, you should know that you will have scores of people around you that are operating from that mindset. Now, I came to UVU, I'd been on the job for about 2 weeks, and I was having lunch with President Tuminez. She asked me some of my ideas about women's leadership initiatives, and I very loosely pitched a very rough idea about starting a women's leadership case competition. And she looked across the table and she replied, and I quote, "That's wonderful, let's do it now." Now, I had barely been here 2 weeks. I hadn't unpacked my house. I barely unpacked my office. So I have to say that her sense of urgency was both really exciting and also a little bit of pressure. And students, I suspect you can probably relate to that mixture of emotions as well. You're probably coming into these 2 days excited about what we have ahead of us, excited about all the hard work that you've done to get here, but you're probably feeling some pressure, maybe a little bit of nerves. And so my advice to you is to leverage all of that, to really put your best foot forward. So now here we are, after months of planning and lots of collaboration, here to kick off our Women in Leadership case competition. And this is actually quite important. So case studies are widely used across education. They've long been used in the study of law and the study of medicine. They made their way into business education in 1921 when Harvard Business School pioneered their use in the management classroom. And although case studies have been used for that long, in a 2014 study that reviewed all of the best-selling cases, what was found is that women were absent in those cases 45% of the time. And 7 of those best-selling cases had a female leader in the protagonist role, so the one that was tasked with solving the complex problem. So what does that mean? It means that for all of these decades, we have actually been taking this think leader, think male bias and embedding it in the teaching materials that we use in the classroom. Now, publishers have done a much better job in terms of curating cases that have diverse protagonists and dealing with issues that impact diverse stakeholders, but there's still a lot more to be done to really put women at the forefront of solving complex challenges. As President Tuminez has noted before, women are vital to society's success. Their talents and perspectives are needed to sustain economic growth, provide diverse perspectives, drive innovation, and demonstrate that a more just society is possible. And it is in that vein that we started this competition to provide further opportunities for women leaders and allies, because after all, UVU empowers women through education. Now for our competitors. So I'm really excited to introduce our teams. I know you already had some teasers on the way in with our signage, but as we kick off this inaugural event, I'm absolutely delighted to have Elon University, the University of Arizona, Stetson University, Utah State University, Brigham Young University, Southern Utah University, Middle Tennessee State, East Tennessee State, University of Calgary, and Utah Valley University. So let's have a round of applause for that. And so thank you so much to everyone who has come here to participate. And let me tell you a little bit more about the student leaders that we have before us. So we actually have students who are joining us that represent a variety of backgrounds in terms of their academic studies. That includes students who have majored in psychology, marketing, human resource management, finance, accounting, project management, environmental business, communication, political science, and health education, among others. And we also have students at every level of their academic journey, all the way from freshmen to seniors. We have institutions who have brought extra students with them so that they can observe this year and come back next year even more prepared. And we have students who have stepped in on virtually 24 hours notice to fill in for a team member who fell ill and could not travel. So we have some amazing students here before us, and it's a real honor to have you here in this event. Now, I believe that gratitude is a powerful leadership skill, and the thank yous to be said certainly extend beyond the students. So I would like to express gratitude to the sponsors of this event. This has been a collaboration for various UVU entities, the Woodbury School of Business, the Women's Success Center, with sponsorships from the Women in Business Impact Lab, as well as external partners such as Enterprise Holdings. So together, this event has been possible. And if we are extending thank yous, a huge thank you needs to go out to all of the faculty advisors. So thank you for the time that you have put into coaching and preparing your students and taking time out of your busy schedules to bring them here. Students, I'm guessing that probably somewhere along the line you have had a professor, probably and an advisor and a career staff member who has talked to you about the importance of building your network. And I think this event is a testament to how right they all were. Because when I moved towards starting this event, I called on people in my network, and thank you so much to all of you who assembled teams and have showed up to support this. Our judges, so we have, by the end of this competition, we will have had 35 local leaders engaged in our judging process, and these folks come from diverse backgrounds and industries. Many of you are in the room here right now. So thank you so much for taking time out to join this event and to invest in the development of these students. And of course, our leadership team and my amazing colleagues. So I mentioned to you that President was on board with this early on. Dr. Stephen Huff, you were critical in the early funding decisions for this competition, so thank you so much for believing in it as well. Our new dean, Dean Allen, when he got here, he jumped in and started trying to help recruit teams with me. Dr. Tara Ivey, you have lent an amazing colleague, Justine Dorton, who is so critical to the planning process for this. And I want to give a special shout out to my colleague, Jessica Ballard. She's out there busy because that's what she does. She stays busy. But Jessica and her event management students and I have worked really closely on this event. And all of the students that you see floating around, these are our advanced event production students who have been working on this competition as a part of their semester-long project, their Engaged Learning project. And so they are not just volunteers. Let me tell you how critical they have been. They have made the marketing materials for this event. They have made the catering decisions for this event. They have put together logistics plans for this event. They made the swag decisions. I heard some people talking about how they like the swag bags. That wasn't me. That was them. And they have done so much more beyond that. So students, I know that you're just kind of getting started and you have a lot of work ahead of you over this next day and a half, but thank you so much for everything that you have already done. And I also want to extend a big thank you to my friend and colleague, Dr. Paul Melendez. So Dr. Melendez is a distinguished professor at the University of Arizona. He's also the founder of the Center for Leadership Ethics at the Eller College of Management. And he has one of the best case competitions in the world, which has been running for 20 years. And so when I reached out to Paul and I told him what I wanted to do here, he jumped on board really kind of as a competition consultant and shared with me 20 years of lessons learned resources, insights, and just so much valuable information to help lay the groundwork to ensure that this is the premier Women in Leadership case competition. So thank you so much, Paul. And he is also the lead author on our case. And so, Paul, I would like to invite you to say a few words. So, Dr. Melendez, I will hand this over to you now.
Well, from the looks of it, we had the best collegiate ethics case competition. I am just so impressed. If you noticed me smiling from ear to ear, it was because I'm just really very happy for the university, for the support in general, in particular to Dr. Hall, for shepherding this. And I just think that you really, all of you deserve a huge round of applause for getting us here right now. So I want to keep my remarks short because you have another wonderful speaker. And I'm sorry, when you end up on Fox Sports News for cheering on your university for getting into the Final Four, pom-poms, you need to move aside. And that's what I plan to do here. But seriously, I want to share something with you that I think that many of you can certainly appreciate. Does anyone know what the significance of March 14th, 2023 was? By the way, this was just last Tuesday. Ah, okay. Anyone else? Okay. Anything else? I got the same reaction from my business ethics class, which was a collective wrong answers, but that's okay. Not that they're wrong, but wrong as far as what I'm looking for. So back in 1964, we had this thing called the Equal Pay Act, right? Which, wonderful, made some great inroads. Well, March 14th, 2023 is Equal Pay Day. So many of you have heard that women make 82 cents to the dollar when compared to men. March 14th represents when women have to work through to earn the same amount that a man earned at the end of December of last year. So just let that wash over you for a moment. And when you start to look at different race, ethnicity, and age, it gets even steeper. So as much progress as we've made, there's still a lot more to be done. And I think we would all agree. In many ways, this conference has a very large part to play in that solution when you look around the room. Another thing I want to share with you is a name that you've probably heard, Sheryl Sandberg. How many of you heard that name? Successful technology executive, a philanthropist, a writer. I remember for many, many years, I used to tell the story, and many of you probably have heard this if you have either taken an MBA or you have, are just familiar with her work. She made a huge mistake while she was at Google, like a multi-million-dollar mistake. Went to Larry Page, the thought leader at Google, and said, I really messed up. Lost millions of dollars, running too fast, not enough guardrails, I'm sorry. He said, no problem. She turned around, left, and he said, hey, Sheryl, real quick. No problem, because this is what I want. I want people in this company that are failing early, thinking big, taking risks. This is who we are. This is our ethos. Sounds really good, doesn't it? Until you get to 2023 and we have these really interesting technologies. And I'm not just talking about, as Dr. Hall and I wrote, Meta and Instagram and the really interesting algorithms. How about things like ChatGPT or now Bard AI? The point being is that these technologies are great, but if you put them out too quickly and you don't give the proper thought and consideration to the ethical implications, We are living through that right now. And I think this case that you have worked on will probably bring this up as well. Last couple points on Sheryl Sandberg, because I'm a huge fan. She, a number of years ago, wrote a very famous book, Lean In, right? And she told women, look, raise your hand, demand a seat at the table, lean into opportunities. Does that sound like great advice? How many of you would say that's great advice? Well, let me tell you, I agree, but it's imperfect. Because if you think about this, it puts the entire onus on women. How fair is that? When women do speak up, the smartest and the best, they can experience backlash. We call this attribution bias, right? And here's the other thing, and I want you to look around the table. It gives men a big pass. Look around the room. I am talking to the men in the room. We are a huge part of the problem. We have to be part of the solution, right? And the last thing I want to share with you, which really, Dr. Hall, it just happens. Sometimes things just happen organically. If you look at who's in this room, we're all privileged. I know some of you are saying, well, wait a second. You're not suggesting I didn't work hard. I didn't take chances. I didn't earn my seat at the table. No. But think about where you are right now. You're enjoying a wonderful dinner with thought leaders, a college experience. You're privileged, right? And the reason why I want to really reinforce this is because you have an obligation to your fellow students, to the future leaders, to use your position, use your privilege to give others a boost. In general, but women in particular. The lessons that men have to learn is how best to play that role. You mentioned allyship. You see the connector? So with that, I want to just wish you the very best. You are in for a wonderful next couple of days. As Dr. Hall said, take full opportunity to advance your network, meet people, talk with people, and just really savor the experience. And again, a big congratulations to the university and to Dr. Hall for organizing this wonderful competition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Melendez. And now, President Tuminez, I would like to invite you to talk to us as well.
Thank you, Dr. Hall and Dr. Melendez. How are you feeling? You're feeling good? You don't feel as good as I do. Because last night UVU beat Cincinnati, and we beat New Mexico and Colorado the week before, and we're in the Fabulous Four in the NIT tournament. So let's just give that a round of applause, please. Do I have a clicker? So it's so exciting to be here because I was there, as you know, when the idea was suggested and hatched. And that's me. I always say, can you do it now? That sounds like a really good idea. Do it now because life is short and I'm getting older every day. And I want to see this women's leadership case competition. So I want to talk tonight, just maybe share a few words about the impact of women's leadership. If you've been to the Philippines, which is my country of origin, that is a tricycle. That's the chief mode of transportation used in the villages where my mother and father grew up. And I visited in 2018 with a group from Utah Valley University who wanted to document my place of origin. So welcome to UVU. I'm so happy to see this group of people, your mentors, the professors who are here, and to know that you will be having this amazing experience in this competition and generating cases on women's leadership. I'm obviously a woman leader. I didn't think that I would be a leader growing up. I was born in a rice farming village in the middle of nowhere, and at 2 years old, my family moved to the slums of Iloilo City in the Philippines. So the house on stilts in the water, that's the house where I grew up. And the girl there on the far right with her face in her hands, that's me. And when you grow up like this, and there's me with my little sister, I never had breakfast. It was a crazy life. There were 7 kids in the family, and my father collected taxes in the wet market and earned less than $50 a month. So you don't have notebooks, you don't have books, you don't have radio, you don't have water, you don't have plumbing, you don't have anything. Lucky for me, my mother was a woman of ambition. So when we talk about women's leadership, it's not necessarily people like me who are running a university. My mother knew, having been a peasant girl, that her 6 daughters would have nothing in the village and that she would have to move us to the slums. So I could learn English, for example. So I could be around more sophisticated people, because even though you live in a hut, the city is more sophisticated than the farm. And she was a woman with great ambition and hauled us all to a place where we could have a better life. And on top of that, I was very, very lucky. I was blessed and lucky because when I was 5 years old, this nun, Sister Elvira Correa, in the middle of the slide, was doing a service. She's a Catholic nun from the Daughters of Charity and was doing service in the slums and found my family and decided to invite my sisters and me to go to her school. And the school was the second most expensive school in the city. I was brought in as a visitor, not a first grader, a visitor, because I was illiterate, didn't know numbers and letters. And Miss Toriha on the far right, she was my first teacher. We were seated in the classroom by intelligence. First girl, first seat, first row, smartest girl. Last seat, last row, dumbest girl. And I was put in the last seat, last row. And I looked around me and I felt so humiliated, but I also said to myself as I looked at the first girl in the first row, I thought to myself, I want to unseat her. I want her out of that chair. I want to be in that chair. Her name was Rosemary, and she had nice pigtails and everything. And she became the focus of my attention. Miss Toriha taught me to read. And as soon as I started reading Dr. Seuss and discovered the beauty of language, it was all magic from then on for me. And you couldn't get me out of the library. That's just where I spent all my time. And then I was promoted. Miss Toriha promoted me to second grade. She didn't even make me go through first grade. And I did unseat Rosemary. I did sit in the first seat, first row. And I think that's how my competitiveness was born. My teacher, Mrs. Garcia, in 6th grade was my role model and mentor. She was the most beautiful teacher in the school. And since I came from the slums, I didn't feel very beautiful. She would give me some of her old clothes and shoes, and she would give me big responsibilities, like, correct theme papers, essays, and then be in charge of the speech festival and the drama festival. And these are the women leaders and mentors that made a difference in my life. I certainly wouldn't be standing here today without these women. They opened for me the pathway of education, mere literacy, to be literate. To be able to read letters and numbers is an incredible thing. It's magic. It changes a person's life. My grandmother was illiterate. The only thing she could do was sign her name, and that was it. So I went to Brigham Young University. BYU, where are you? Okay, we beat you at basketball 2 years in a row, but you could beat us in this competition. I went to BYU, so. I went to Harvard and MIT, and I also started at the University of the Philippines. So education is liberation, I think, for women's leadership. It's a pretty important variable. What are we doing here at UVU to promote women's leadership? First of all, one of our taglines here is UVU, a place for you. So last year, for the first time, we're now 50% women in enrollment. Thank you. Hi, Emmy. And that's wonderful. And we have the Women's Success Center that was mentioned earlier today. Dr. Rachel Lund is here, who runs that center. We want to support women in their education and leadership journeys. If you look at the leadership composition of this university, And this is not something calculated. This is not something that I said, I will come here and I'll hire only women. I never said that to myself. And but look at the last couple of years, I'd say the last 5 years, the UVU Student Association president has been a woman. The Faculty Senate president has been a woman. The president of the Professional Association of Campus Employees has been female. And I don't know if that's partly because I am leading this university and women want to step up. It is important to see people like you, just a representation, so that you feel like, okay, I can be that as well. And I'm really proud that our University Executive Council, that's the top 37 leaders of this university. Of course, diversity doesn't just mean appearance, although you could tell from these appearances we are diverse. But our life experiences, some of us have been in the corporate world. We represent different disciplines. I'm a political scientist. A lot of my colleagues, my provost is a philosopher. Dr. Kyle Reyes over there is just a Renaissance man. And we put him on all our slides. At UVU, if you have a slide presentation, you must put Dr. Kyle Reyes on it. So this is pretty exciting. I think we empower many female leaders here. Our Women's Success Center, you could look at these numbers. It's so exciting for us that through scholarships and programming, we see a 17% higher retention and persistence among our women students. And just from fall to spring this year, we have between 94 and 96.6% and 96.6% persistence in the women who are availing of the programming at the Women's Success Center. So I think eventually when women, I think, achieve more, maybe it's more equal, we may not need a place like the Women's Success Center. It's the dream or the nightmare. So very proud of what we are doing. And this predates me. This started in 2011 with the wife of our former president, President Matt Holland. His wife started this. So really amazing thing that I inherited. We do a lot of partnerships that lift women. Dr. Kelly Hall mentioned some of the things she's involved with. Women's Leadership Certification Program, yes. Executive education. I was very, very involved when I lived in Asia in women's executive education in leadership. And so we've started that program here, and that just helps women from every industry and sector become part of this cohort, get training and learning. FAM is a program for our students in digital media and film, where the women make a movie and they usually get a mentor, someone who's been very famous already and been very successful in the film industry. And we have a women's council that tries to coordinate and discuss all of the different initiatives that we are doing at the university so that we are coordinated and that we use our resources for the biggest impact. In addition, we do other things with the community. We work with tech moms. This is not a UVU originated initiative. This is external, but we support them, and they use our classrooms. There are many moms who want to return to the workforce or earn more money, and we've found that many of them are very tech savvy, and so tech moms gives them training and education, and actually, upon our suggestion, they went to the legislature to fund this and got funding. So then these women could return to the workforce with the skills and credentials that make them very competitive and position them for success. We lift, I know two former dean and acting dean of the business school are here. This is women's entrepreneurship. Lead, Innovate, Found, and Transform. And we have also partnered this with leaders in the community. We want to support women entrepreneurs. Actually, I'm very impressed at the number of women entrepreneurs here in Utah. And in many ways, if you want, it's not easier, but it's just less structured. So for example, if you're a mom, and you want to work 80 hours a week, sometimes entrepreneurship, as hard as it is, can work for you because there's flexibility, but you do have to work very, very hard in order to succeed. So we are proud that we can support women entrepreneurs in the community. I will just close with the power of cases. I was the founding Vice Dean of Research for the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy at the National University of Singapore. And this is one thing that we worked with because, we were purchasing cases from all sorts of places. But Asia, as a rising continent, where the nexus of power is really moving, economic power and even political power when you think about China in many ways. And yet cases were not being written, business cases in particular. And so this is one of the things that we were doing over there. But I think cases is really about the power of stories, as you use that in mainly business schools and law schools use cases, because stories are very powerful. One of the novelists I read, Richard Powers, who wrote The Overstory, which won the Pulitzer Prize, said that data, and I'm probably misquoting him, data doesn't change minds, but a powerful story will. And then the story makes people inquire about the data, what's behind the story, because the story is so compelling. So we have some stories here. Maybe I'll go back one at a time. This is Professor Diane McAdams Jones, graduated from Tuskegee University, served in the military, and last year became our inaugural recipient of, what do we call the award? Academic Excellence, Black Faculty Excellence. She actually came in a crown and a queen's outfit. And that's just how it should be. And she even had a scepter, I think. So just amazing, woman full of energy. And I mean, again, that's a story. As I've learned of her story, I was very inspired. This is Lacey Myers, my former presidential intern from a little town called Price, Utah. When she was born, there was a mishap and she was blinded in one eye. Her father was addicted to opioids. She was bullied through high school. She was told by her guidance counselor not to apply for college because she wasn't worthy. And Lacey last year graduated with her master's degree from Queen's University in Belfast on scholarship and has been one of the most successful students here at Utah Valley University. This is Brooke Schroeder, amazing person, had a very difficult time, addicted to drugs in high school and through college here at UVU. It took her 12 years to finish her degree here. She does not show up on any iPad's number of student success or completion. She does not. They would mark her a failure. When she had just gotten herself clean, her mother got cancer, so she had a relapse. And then the short of it is that she got some funding here at UVU to do research on addiction. And the paper she wrote was so compelling that it got a lot of attention around the country, and she got into a joint PhD JD program at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. And so Brooke, with what she's lived in her life, can be a very powerful researcher, I think, as well as a mentor. And that's a woman leader, that's success. This is Sarah, Emmy, what's her name? Kate Hickman. I just got her story. I actually don't know Kate very well, but she sent an email. She's our first student to she just got accepted to a PhD program at MIT. MIT full scholarship. You have to remember that UVU is not the University of Arizona. We are open admission. We are not BYU. We accept everybody here. And so to break the walls of MIT and Queen's University, and today one of our students, Kiana McAllister, got into Oxford, master's program in constitutional studies. This is Jamie Bond, and her story was one that blew me away my first year here. She begins her story by saying, I married the love of my life at the age of 19. She endured 6 years of abuse. And the night that she fled her home, she had exactly $2 in her wallet and 4 children. And she attempted suicide, luckily did not succeed. And her sister told her, go to UVU and go to the Women's Success Center. She saw our daycare here. We have a We Care Center, which is clean and safe and colorful, and they have home-cooked meals in that We Care Center, and she just started crying when she saw the We Care Center. Jamie is a senior this year in the Woodbury School of Business in finance. She's happily remarried. Again, when you go through the darkness of life and you come out on the other hand, I tell you, you are prepared to be a leader. And her story was, to me, was just remarkable. Is Lexi Soto here, our UVUSA president? We just did Instagram Live today, she and I. And I have seen Lexi's I know, I'm a crazy person, right? I do Instagram Live. And today, I learned the meaning of the word fit check. Because at the very end of Instagram Live, somebody said, fit check. I'm like, fit check? What's that? Do I have to run in place? So I had to deconstruct my outfit. So that was fun. But I have seen Lexi evolve. You know, her education here has been made possible by an anonymous donor, right? She can bear tuition. I've seen Lexi evolve from right behind this pulpit to speak, where she gets so nervous, she froze. She froze. She was here. And we're all sitting there thinking, what's going to happen? To becoming the president of UVU Student Association, to giving me, talking points for Instagram Live, to introducing me at this, the state of the university where she memorized her script and was so well put together. That is leadership. That is the journey of women's leadership. So I want to ask you this week, have a good time, but tell your stories well. I don't know the dynamics of competition, but the cases that you write, I hope will be compelling. And cases, you've got to make that narrative have the proper arc so that at the right moment, the professor can ask questions. And I think what you're doing is very, very powerful, because as you do it well, others will benefit from it as a tool for teaching, and also a powerful tool for inspiring others and showing others the way. So I thank you. Like Dr. Hall said, you took a risk. I also took a risk. I came from Singapore. I had a very nice tropical life where there was no snow. And I came to Utah, and I love it here. It's so dynamic. There's so many exciting things happening. And I'm very grateful to be in an institution that's hungry. And I think we all should stay hungry, because hunger drives us to be creative, and it drives us to respect timing. Life doesn't last forever. Timing. The poet Mary Oliver said, tell me, what is it you want to do with your one wild and precious life? So on that note, thank you. Good luck to all of you. Be fierce in competition and have a good time. Thank you. Sure. I'll be happy to take any questions. Is UVU going to win on Tuesday in Las Vegas at the semifinals of the NIT? Yes. I'm very superstitious, so I have to believe in that kind of positive thing in my mind. Any questions? Yes, Professor Melendez.
Will we have a woman president of the United States?
Well, I wish Hillary Clinton, but when we have a woman president in the United States, when you look at political indicators, the United States is very behind. If you look at legislatures around the world, there are many other countries that have hit the 30, 40, 50%, even majority. The Scandinavian countries probably lead in, young, hip female prime ministers who get in trouble for partying because they like to go clubbing. Clubbing is not a sin, guys. So when will the United States get a female president? I hope soon. But if you look at the landscape today, it's rather hard to identify women political figures today that you feel, are really positioned. And so I admire women who are participating in political battles. I just think it is so difficult. And I am not so bullish. The United States were very advanced in many ways, but also not in other ways. But I think that will happen eventually. Time moves, and mores change, and perceptions change. And so I'm hoping before too long. Hopefully I live to be 100 and maybe see it. I intend never to get old. Yes.
So, as you were going through your careers...
There's a microphone, too.
Oh, thanks. As you were going through your different careers, your different stages of your career, you had a family, and so what I'd like to know is how you figured out how to balance those two lives.
Yeah, thank you. I often get asked that a lot, and the first thing that I say is that there is balance. The best pianist in the world has no balance. The best gymnast in the world, the best auto mechanic in the world has no balance. Anytime you say to yourself, I want to be great at something, you're never going to have balance. And so I feel that balance is a bit of a myth. And it's been very, very difficult. I have 3 children, and my husband and I have had very, very challenging kind of fun careers. What I do want to say about navigating that rather than having balance is just simply how to navigate it. So when I had my first child, I only took 8 weeks off. So first of all, the women here, if you're going to have children, please take more time off. Because the mistake that I was making at the time was I wanted to be a man. I really, really wanted to be a man. And so I thought, childbirth, schmildbirth. I'm going to go back to work in 8 weeks. So I'd say, take a little more time off. But what I realized with family life is your capacity to do what we think is hard. We are actually very surprised by our own capacity to do even more. And I lived in New York City, where it's really tough. My nanny at 6:30 p.m. was on the sidewalk with my baby. Like, here's your baby, take your baby. So I had I had very little wiggle room. But I had a moment in New York where I was in my kitchen during my leave, my 8-week leave, and I had the phone, before cell phones, I had the phone right here. I was doing dishes with my hands, and I was rocking my baby in her car seat. And I had this epiphany, like, I am amazing. Like, I can do anything. Look at me in my kitchen in New York. I'm doing 3 different things. And my male colleagues can't do this. So number 1 is just believe that your capacity to do is actually really great. Number 2, pick a really great partner. I cannot be where I am today without my husband. My biggest cheerleader is my husband. The more successful I am, like, the more he loves me. So I feel pressure to be successful. And when we got engaged, he said to me, "Hey, you're responsible for your own happiness." And I actually didn't like that, because I had in my head this image of the knight in shining armor and a white horse who's going to make a lot of money for me and tell me how beautiful I am every day. And he just told me that he's not responsible for my happiness. It was a profound moment of honesty before we got married. Then I realized I'm responsible for my happiness, but have a good partner who supports your dreams as much as he supports his dreams. And then I think, how else do you balance? I think this is also with age, is just remember, with age, you just get better at embracing everything life gives you. There are just so many moments of discomfort. And by the way, with motherhood, all the research shows that the leaking pipeline of women is around the time they have a baby. It's all there, the 30s. As soon as you have a baby, like your leadership journey falls apart. And so I often tell corporations, you have to support your women. If you believe they're talented, support them in the childbearing ages. Because for me, the trade-off was, I have this really cute baby at home that's not getting my time and my attention. And then there's a lot of crap at work. A lot of nonsense. My second baby was born in Wall Street. I worked till 1 p.m. on the trading floor, and I got in a taxi and had the baby at 8 p.m. And then when I had that baby, I went back to work again after 8 weeks because I was so stupid. And then the men on that trading floor knew. I was one of the few people with an office that in the morning, don't bother me, because they called me like the woman on the verge, because I'm always tired. I have this baby. And they'd come in, they want to chit-chat. They want to show me their Ferragamo ties. I didn't really care. And I was like, get out of my office. Like, I have no time. My baby was sick all night. And I read some really dark memoirs about motherhood. Rachel Cusk. If you want this darkest memoir, just read that, and then it makes you feel good. Like, yeah, she had it worse than me. And so I can do this. And then, just that parenthood is the hardest thing you'll ever do. So be deliberate about that. Have your support system. Don't joke about your nanny. Your nanny is going to be a critical member of your family. That's a very long answer. But in the women's journey, that's all very real. Yes.
I'm coming, don't worry.
So I know that there are lots of different groups of people that are at disadvantages. Personally, I have a very loud personality, and I've never really had trouble advocating for myself, but I want to learn how to use that ability to advocate for other people.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you have any advice for me and for other people that want to advocate for other people but aren't quite sure how. Do you have any advice for what I can be doing today, tomorrow, every day to advocate for others as well as for myself?
Yeah. So advocating for others, we mentioned the word privilege. Professor Melendez said that we in this room are very privileged. How do we advocate for others? I guess the first thing that I would say is do your homework. So, when you advocate, what are you advocating for and why? Don't just do memes. Memes are insufficient. And then so do your homework. What is the cause you're advocating for and why? What's the data? Who are the people out to talk to? And you need to hear you. When I was at Harvard, I ran the Harvard Students Waging Peace. And we were all, and I did it at MIT too, we really wanted the nuclear arms race to stop, right? So very big issue. And I wasn't even a US citizen. But I did a ton of homework. I even, had a Nobel Prize professor in physics just mentor me. I was not afraid to ask for help because I knew they were writing about these issues as well. And then we went to Washington, D.C. We were lobbying members of Congress. So, doing this thing, what can you do? How do you lobby? What is it you're lobbying for? How do you do it? What resources do you need? And then you need to find like-minded people because it's always a coalition of the willing. And I've found that the best coalitions of the willing involve the enemies, involve the opposition. That is such a critical skill. But I love that you have that idealism that, you're loud for yourself, you can advocate for yourself, but the world doesn't get better because I'm loud for myself. The world gets better because I am loud for my UVU students, right? Because, when I go to Grand Canyon University basketball with my pom-poms, and that is the most rabid fan base in the world. And after we beat them, and the people behind me, they say, do you have a son in that basketball team? I'm like, they're all my sons. And so it gives you purpose. That's a really wonderful thing. Yeah, so do your homework, figure out how you're going to do that. You have to find common language with your opposition because the practical middle ground always exists. That's where good things happen, the practical middle ground.
So I have a question, for example, these two words like success and content. So for example, any successful person, they want to set their goal higher, and then when they're successful, and then when they reach there, they set their goal higher and higher, and it never stops.
Yeah.
So how we can have the content and success together?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to turn to the Buddha. Absolutely. I have been a student of Buddhism since 2005. And one of my exposures to success is Harvard. From BYU, I went to Harvard. I have never seen so many successful and so many unhappy people in my life. My professors, like an alcoholic, I was just like, come on, I don't want to be like any of you guys. So, and I remember one of my professors actually had a profound influence on me. His name was Alexander Neckrich, and he wrote this very famous book, The Dispossessed, how Stalin displaced all the ethnic peoples in the Central Asian republics, slaughtered them, put them in cattle trains. One day he called me into his office. He said, I have cancer. And he said, I just want you to know. I told him, die, so I care for you. And he said, I want you to remember that. Be nice to your husband, he said. I'm like, okay. and so I said the Buddha because in Buddhism, it's a very profound principle to be present in the moment. And you can do your best and you can plan for the future. But the only thing you're living is the moment, not a minute ago, not a minute from now. And that you're striving, but you don't get fixated on your results. And then the very profound principle of non-self, not the ego. Non-self. All misery comes from the ego. So if you're only striving for the usual trappings of success, It's definitely good to have money. The research says it's not just 70,000 that gets you happiness, 200,000 buys you more happiness. And so it's not bad to have money. I grew up so poor, but money has never obsessed me. Meaning has obsessed me because death has always obsessed me. The essayist Montaigne said the most important work of our lives is building death. And when I reflect on that statement, it's just, the finite nature of our lives. And therefore, what do we do with the time we have? And so if you're fixated on, like I want to be famous or I want to get credit, you will be very miserable. And there is no end if the satisfaction, if what makes you full is hitting the goal. Never. Process is important and what you learn along the way. Don't get me wrong, because I love hitting the goal and I love winning. And my cabinet members know that, yes, I want it now, yesterday. But at the end of every day, what I have learned to do, and I think, again, it's also age, is I really divorce myself from all results. Because I think the good things happen and they even happen without me. So I cannot ever let my ego, I could walk away from this job any second and not feel like, whoa, who am I, In my 30s, I did not feel that way. In my 30s, I always thought, okay, my calling card should have a really, really good title. But that's when you're young, But I think if you can learn that when you're younger, to be striving, but you have that ability not to confuse who you are with money, position, power. That's not really the exciting stuff life is made of. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Tuminez. So at this point in the evening, let's talk about the bracket. So you are here for a competition. You're ready to go. How is this going to shake out? So in this competition, we have 13 teams that have been split into 3 brackets. And based on performance from round 1 and round 2, a bracket winner will emerge and move on to the finals, which will be held tomorrow. And then our event will close with a networking reception and an award ceremony in our Roots of Knowledge gallery. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Roots of Knowledge, you probably got a pamphlet about it in your welcome folder as you were coming in. But I will tell you that the Roots of Knowledge is a gallery of a stained glass mural that depicts a view of history, innovation, creativity, and the pursuit of learning over time. And among the beautiful things that you will see when we close out our event there is going to be some amazing women leaders who are depicted in that stained glass mural. And these are women whose influence has really withstood the test of time. And so as we were thinking about our brackets and what we might call you, we drew inspiration from some of the women who are depicted in that gallery. And so the names for the brackets for our 2023 competition, we will have the Sacagawea bracket, Ruby Bridges, and Rosie the Riveter. Now, all of these women can teach us something about leadership. And all of these women displayed exceptional leader character in really unconventional settings. And so when we close out our event tomorrow over in Roots of Knowledge, I'll have more time to tell you a little bit more about the leadership of these women. But for now, let's focus our attention on who is actually in each of these brackets. So in our Sacagawea bracket, we have BYU, Utah State, Stetson University, and Southern Utah University with Gabby and Kennedy. So that is our Sacagawea bracket. You'll have some time to finish your meals. And as we wind down, your bracket will be competing tonight in room 306. And we'll have some liaisons to usher you there. Ruby Bridges. So in our Ruby Bridges bracket, we have Elon, Middle Tennessee State, Utah Valley with Dr. Westover's team, Marina and Keelan, and another team from Southern Utah, Ada and Raina. And then in our last bracket, Rosie the Riveter, we have University of Calgary, University of Arizona, East Tennessee State University. We have our Dr. Hernandez team from UVU, and our last team from SUU with Liza and Aaron. And so at the conclusion of dinner, you will be headed to room 302. Now, again, we'll have some people that can remind you of where you're going. It's also in your welcome packet as well. That's the room that you will be competing in tonight. All of you have a unique team prep room that has been reserved for you. So we'll have some time in between dinner and when our round starts. And so you are welcome to hang out in your dedicated team room. You are welcome to, use any common areas of the building. And we will actually be having a judges briefing during that time period between dinner and round one. So for the judges in the room, when we conclude dinner, you will be headed to room 302. That is one of our competition rooms. We're going to use that space as a gathering to go through some information that you'll need to know and have a pre-round briefing. And then for the Ruby Bridges bracket, the way that the rooms worked out this evening, you'll actually be competing here on the 4th floor. So as you may have noticed, all of your team prep rooms are down on the 3rd floor. We've reserved some study pods that are just right across the hall here, right outside room 408 where you will be competing. So you can utilize that space. So for now, since we have a little bit of time, we are going to give you a chance to finish your dessert, turn the music on and give you some more time to mingle with guests. And then in just a little bit, we will usher you to these areas.